Okay, I'm making a video because we were just talking, Cameron and I were just talking about why would we buy the Segway GT1 and GT2? I just ordered the GT2 Megatron. Why would we buy a scooter that has such a small battery? I'm saying it that way because there's scooters that have much larger batteries than this little battery. This has a tiny battery in it. Oh, that's just how it is. It's very small.
What is this, a 20 amp hour?
I don't even know.
I think it's 20 amp hour, and then the GT2 is like a 30 amp hour.
Is it?
That's my understanding. I could be off by a little bit, but I think that's what it is.
Okay, whatever's in there, whatever it is, it's smaller than the largest of the batteries that are out there in the industry, right, Cameron? Because there's some pretty big ones in scooters. They have some pretty big batteries out
It's
there.
way smaller.
Yeah, it's way smaller.
I say, but what I thought they did though, is they lowered the top speed so that it could make the range similar, because they're making it safer by not going over 43 miles an hour. Maybe on boost it goes faster, but nobody needs to go 40 on a scooter, in my opinion. So if you never go 50 on the scooter, you're not going to wear the battery out crazy like that would during that moment you're asking for so much power.
Very good point. So, yeah, this is being worked on right now, but Cameron and I were just talking, we're eating lunch right now, but we were just talking about, so why did we get the scooter? Why would we both get the scooter? I just sold two Dualtrons, a Dualtron Thunder and a Dualtron Storm, the up model with the larger capacity battery, which is a 35 amp hour battery. And that scooter goes fast. It has great range. I've gone 100 miles on it, going 25 miles an hour. I've gone 70 miles going fairly fast on it. So why would I sell those to get this scooter in the Segway GT2 version, two-wheel drive? And Cameron, we were discussing how this scooter is so well made. You were talking about how you were ready to give up on scooters because they're so, you call it so breakable. Now, even though we're working on this one, we think we melted the controller running it in the heat because it's so hot. But who knows? Maybe the next controller will be a stronger one. Maybe, we don't know. But still, Cameron, do you want to talk about how did this save your belief in scooters?
Okay, the reason I have this scooter is that I've always trusted the big name scooters, which started out as Xiaomi, the Xiaomi M365, Segway, 9bot, the Max. And so I trusted those brands because they were in rental fleets and proven tough, out on the street, out in the rain. And when I did get disappointed with the maximum power I would get out of the 9bot Max, and also disappointed with the terrible tires of the M365, I decided I needed something that had certain minimum specs. And those specs are high quality brand, not sketchy ride. This thing rides really well. It turns well at top speed. This has 11-inch tires, which are the ideal tire size when it comes to being able to pick it up at all. They are moving to 12-inch tires on other scooters, but the scooters are going to be too big. This has tires that have, what do I call it? Run flat goop, puncture sealing goop inside of them.
Yeah, that's a non-liquid. To clarify, it's a non-liquid, and it's called self-sealing, self-healing. It works very well. It's a minimum standard. Minimum standard now.
Exactly. So I would say that we're both going to minimum standard scooters, which means the tires have to be minimum self-sealing. In my opinion, the brakes have to be hydraulic. This has hydraulic brakes, and not only does it have hydraulic brakes, it has good hydraulic brakes. So.
And now with regen.
This one, I don't know if this one will, but maybe the GT2 you get will.
Okay, well they told me it does. It's a setting on the app.
Okay.
That's what they said.
For me, I don't have to have regen. For me, I just have to have good brakes. And I don't want low quality brakes. Like, in my opinion, the Wolf Warrior has low quality brakes. I don't think Dualtron brakes are very impressive. But these brakes work really well. I like everything about them. So the handling makes it safer. The top speed is sufficient for a one-wheel drive scooter. Nobody else I know thinks they want to have a one-wheel drive scooter, rear-wheel drive, but I do. And the reason is, if something were to happen and the phase wires were to get melt together, I don't want to be doing some stunt or something and then my front tire come to a stop because the motor all of a sudden became a regenerative brake because the phase wires are connected. So in my opinion, The best scooter is going to be rear-wheel drive only, high-powered, which this is. This says it goes 37 miles per hour, and if you look at the radar on the side of the street, the like police your speed is thing, it'll show about 34 miles an hour at that moment. So it makes you think you're doing more than you are, but the suspension works great. It's not an off-road vehicle, but it handles great. It rides well. It's very fast. It is, people are going to say it's too long. It looks too long. It's a whole wheel longer than other scooters. But that, with a scooter of this power, if you were to jump off a curb at full throttle, the time it takes for your back tire to go from the curb to the street is going to be, let's call it a quarter second. In that quarter second, your back tire could spin up to maximum speed, if not more than 40 miles an hour. And if you're only going 20 off a curb while giving it full throttle, you could wheelie over pretty easily. And I can tell you that even on the 9bot Max, I had it happen where I was jumping off a curb at full throttle and it did wheelie a little bit. And that's just a dinky little scooter with, what, 1/3 the power? So.
And they did a really good job by giving people the option of one-wheel drive or two-wheel drive, because myself, I prefer two-wheel drive and Cameron likes one-wheel drive. So he gets his one-wheel drive and I get the choice of the GT2, which is the two-wheel drive. So there's something for everyone. The only thing I was looking for was regenerative electronic braking, and I'm getting different, there's a video that says now with regen. I don't know if that means that person just added it themselves and it was always there, because someone told me that it's always been an option in the app. So Cameron got this scooter unable to use the app, so we never knew if we could turn it on or not. But it's right now definitely turned off, because when you pull the brake, it only works as a normal brake and not electric. Electric is you barely touch this, and as soon as your brake light comes on, that's how you kind of know. It'll start slowing down because the regen will kick in. And why do I like that? Not because it charges the battery, which is funny, because everybody says, it seems like everyone says, it doesn't put that much energy back in your battery. I don't care about how much energy it puts back in the battery. I don't want electric braking for how much energy it puts back in the battery. I like it because it doesn't wear the brake pads out. I don't like changing brake pads. I know they only cost about $10. I don't like changing them though. I like zero maintenance, or as close to zero maintenance as possible. That's why I drive Toyotas, because they just, ever since I was born, and my parents had Toyotas, and they had several 100,000 miles without ever breaking down, I learned very quickly that that's a car that doesn't break down. And all of our other cars that were different companies were all breaking down all the time. Transmissions going out, different things breaking. Just in it, my parents used to say, every time we have the car repaired, it's like buying the car again.
What brand cars, what were those models of cars
The Fords broke down a lot.
Like what,
Ford
Mustang,
Taurus.
Yeah, Taurus, okay.
Yeah, the Taurus was always breaking. Every year it went through a transmission.
Wow.
And then you had the Toyota that just never broke. You know, the Toyota truck. And my dad used it for work, and it was for construction. And it was the family work truck, and it always worked. And he had a Ford truck, which was a work truck, and it was always breaking. So, you know, I just saw it. Growing up, we saw it. So now we're getting into scooters, and we're looking for the Toyota version of a scooter. It'd be nice if Toyota made a scooter. I would love if they did. I don't know what they're waiting for. You know, if you go to Art Center College of Design and you see the concept vehicles there, because a lot of the students from that school, this is in Pasadena, California, a lot of the students from that school go on to design cars for the major automakers. And you'll see, you know, different kind of micro-mobility concepts. And I've seen that, you know, throughout the years, many, many years. I don't see them in the market, though, for sale. And I would love to have that option. But, you know, you have companies like Segway who used to make, you know, different versions of micromobility, now broadening the spectrum of choices, which is wonderful. And that's fine. You know, if Toyota wants to one day make a scooter, I'll buy it because it's Toyota. If Honda makes one, I'll buy it, as long as it doesn't have a, this is kind of a bad joke, but as long as it doesn't have a belt. They used to have the timing belts, remember and they used to always break. Yeah. They were, you know, but the Toyota had the timing chain in the engine, and those never broke as long as you kept oil in the engine. You know, and if you broke the timing belt on the Honda, it would ruin the engine. You'd have to have it would cost you thousands of dollars. I never, and then people would say, well, they do that because the engine's quieter. But then you ask anyone, and no one could hear the difference. So you know, you could tell a story, but what's the experience? You know. And my experience was, I'm only buying cars with timing chains because I don't want to bother with with the, if I forget to change the belt on time, it's going to break the heads. I think it's called the interference or non-interference head or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. But anyway, going back to scooters, so Cameron and I both like engineering. We're both interested in electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. We pay attention to details. And that's the reason I sold my 2 Dualtrons, which in the past were my dream scooters. But I maxed the speed out on them when I take those things up to max speed, which is around 50 miles an hour. Even with steering dampening on it, they still felt unstable to me. Now, these don't go that fast, but at all speeds, even the maximum speed that they go, they're so easy to ride. They're so stable. And that's also the reason I also bought the Wolf King GT Pro, because that scooter is so stable at high speeds and at all speeds. It's just easy to ride. It's very powerful. It's very smooth with the sine wave controllers. Now, sure, I've said in the past that I come to expect the responsiveness, if I call it that, of the Dualtron scooters with the square wave controller. It's kind of like an on and off switch, which can be fun, right? But once I ride a scooter like this one, where it's very smooth, or even the kaabo Wolf King GT Pro, which has sine wave controllers and lots of power, I don't know if I can go back to square wave now. I'm so used to the smooth power, and there's so much power, and it's so smooth. How could I go back to an on and off switch?
Let me ask you.
It's just a thought.
Are scooters like the Xiaomi M365 36 volt, 9 watt max 36 volt, are those square wave, and are they just low powered so you can have square wave, or are they actually some sort of sine wave that you know of?
That would be easy to look into. I never looked into it. With something that low powered, it doesn't matter to me.
I think that might be it. That everything had square wave, but then scooters advanced, and
that could be
the controller had to advance, which it has now.
Okay.
In this scooter, in your GT Pro Wolf. So
that makes sense, Cameron.
So really, the only way to make a powerful scooter smooth is to have a very expensive high-tech controller, where a dinky little 36 volt scooter that's basically slightly more than a kid's scooter, that works with just a dinky square wave basic controller.
Yeah, and you have these Dualtrons that are massive powerhouses. I mean, I think the Dualtron Storm Limited is, when it's fully charged, 94 volts, fully charged. And they call it an 84 volt nominal, and it's 94 volts fully charged, I think. That's such high voltage, and you have a square wave controller.
Can you imagine just designing a scooter so that you have a power cord that plugs right into the wall with no charger? 120 volt out of the wall, goes directly into the battery. Can you picture a scooter designed for that?
Yeah.
Would it be so much more efficient that it makes sense to do that? What would you eliminate having the same voltage as a house?
Well, the first thing, before I answer that question, I'm going to take you where my mind goes, which is, I'm trying to think of the name of the scooter, or the bike. It's an e-bike that looks like a motorcycle, and it has pedals, and the pedals do look functional, like they actually, which I like. I like that. I think it's called the Rambler. I think it's called a Rambler electric bikes, and they also make a couple motorcycles. They're all electric, and they sell. There's an option for getting this battery. Yeah, you want to look it up, Cameron? There's an option.
I'm just checking to see if Segway got back to me like they'll call or not.
There's an option to get the this battery, which is I don't know if it's called a graphene battery or what it's called, but just look at the high-tech battery they have on their website, and this is for the Rambler electric bike, electric motorcycle, and that battery can be charged at 80 amps. Now your wall can only do 20 amps, right, Cameron? 120 volts, 20 amps. So that already far exceeds what the wall can even do. It would take everything your wall can give it, times 4. So you might be able to use like a 240 volt system that doubles your amperage. Right? So 240 volt at I don't know if that'd be 20 amps or, I mean, so just calculate the watt hours. So if it can take 80 amps at 72 volts is the largest one they have. I think they have a 30 amp hour capacity at 72 volts. and that battery was, I think it was 2,900, if I recall correctly.
The battery by itself is.
Yeah, because the battery could be charged at 80 amps. Massive speed. I mean, basically, you could probably charge in 5 minutes or 3 minutes. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing you could charge in 3 minutes.
Now, have you done any study on just typical batteries like this scooter or a Dualtron will have, and the long-term effects of fast charging?
Well, I don't. So I was having this conversation yesterday or recently with some guys that were flying they like build drones and stuff, and I said, how come we could charge our remote control cars, over 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, in 5 minutes? I could charge my RC car in 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, usually around 7 minutes, with less degradation. This was my understanding, less degradation to the battery. And just look up G batteries. G batteries, I think, is doing something very similar. That technology is not available to the public yet. But if you want it for remote control cars, look up Cell Pro Power Lab 8, and I think they have newer versions of that now. Because I'm talking about many years ago, this was available. They were charging now what they call is LiPo, lithium polymer batteries. So this is lithium ion. This is what was said to me. I didn't look this up myself, but someone told me that our scooters are using lithium ion, and it's the lithium polymer that can handle that really high power charging. And what it was being explained to me at the time was by fast charging, it actually has less harm to the battery, and that's exactly what G batteries has been saying. So even though 99% of the internet talks about fast charging harming the battery, that's what I'll call traditional fast charging. There's other ways to do it. Remember, there's always more than one way to do something. So my thoughts were, could I fill my scooter up with the LiPo systems, the LiPo batteries, get a couple Cell Pro Power Lab 8s or whatever the newest version of that charger was, where you can literally charge at 1,300 watts. That's how that Power Lab was pulling 1,344 watts, and this is over 10 years ago. So now it should be even more than that, or it could be. I don't know if it is, but imagine a couple of those, right? So I used to have 4 of those running on my remote control car, so I always had the batteries charged, and I could let them cool after I ran them before charging again. So I had it set up so I could just keep running the cars. And that's what's fun to me with the scooter, is to be able to just, that's why I like the quick release battery system that the Dualtron Storm has, and they're doing with the Wolf King GTR that's supposed to come out. I don't know if it's the end of this year or beginning of next year, but that's going to allow the battery to come out where you can just take that out, put the new fully charged battery in, and then have the other one charging while this one's running. But if you had 3 batteries, you could let that battery you just pulled out cool off before recharging it, and then after 20 minutes or something, or however long it needs to cool down, that could be placed on the charger while you're using this battery. So it's kind of like keeping that system going. But your question was what again, Cameron?
I forget.
Okay. Yeah, so fast charging's possible, and I would like to see it as an option for scooters, right? So if we need lithium polymer batteries, I have a few questions. One is, if it costs more, can we have the choice of paying more to have that technology? Does it have a shorter lifespan in general compared to lithium ion? That's another question, right? So if it has a much shorter lifespan, I could see that. But if we use the fast charging in the sense of Cell Pro Power Lab 8, FMA Direct, right? FMA Direct, Cell Pro Power Lab 8, and then look at G batteries to get the theory, right? You're going to learn about the theory there, where they talk about less degradation of the battery when fast charging in that way, right? Using pulse, I can't say the terminology, but it's like using pulse algorithms to charge keeping the resistance low when charging the battery. So anyway, we're gonna work on this scooter. We're Cameron. So this controller burned out. This is the burned out one on a hot day because the weather's been super, super hot, and Cameron was going fast and then slowing down and going fast and slowing down and going fast and slowing down and going up hills and putting a lot of load on it when it's hot. And this controller is down inside there. I don't see any fans on it. So the great news is the controller didn't cost much. Cameron, wasn't this controller around $100 directly from Segway?
$109 from Segway with like maybe tax.
That is
no shipping.
That is the best price I've ever seen for a controller, so I want to thank Segway for doing that. It reminds me of the Saturn cars. Saturn used to sell cars that were very low cost, and people just loved those. The first few years were great, but then people say every year they made them, they just got, the quality went down so bad, and then what happened? The price went up. The price went up on parts, and the quality went down, and then until there was no company left, I think. That's just what I was told by people that work in the industry. But so that's not a long-term plan. But to me, this is a long-term plan. The right to repair. Segway fully supports you fixing your own scooter. They have videos on everything on how to do it. The pricing for the parts as well, and it's a good quality scooter. Okay, and it's just going to get better. So that's why I sold all my scooters to get the Segway GT2 Megatron Edition, and also got the Wolf King GT Pro. And those scooters have what I call rock solid stability without stabilization. There's no steering stabilizer in here, but these scooters at full speed are very stable, very easy to ride. And then if you look at the thing with the Wolf King GT Pro, amazing stability. At 60 miles an hour, I feel completely stable. There's no steering shake or wobble at all. That doesn't mean that can't happen if you hit a bump or something. But I'm just saying, like with any other scooter, even if it was completely flat and there was no bumps, it always felt like it wanted to turn and it wanted to wobble. Like this, I would get steering wobbles, even when there was nothing happening. It could just be the wind blowing a little bit, and I would feel like the steering was wobbling. But on the Wolf King GT Pro, absolutely stable, even with wind blowing real hard, back and forth, pushing. And I'll tell you, I was on a bike path, and I looked to my left at the freeway, and the scooter, the Wolf King GT Pro, was going faster than the freeway. I'm going to make a video of that, where I look over, and you see the passing cars on the freeway, and everyone I tell that story to says, there was a wall between you and the freeway, right? I say, yes, there was a bike path, and they had a wall between us, so the cars can't reach the bike path, and the bike path can't reach the cars. Anyway, everyone, Cameron, is there anything you want to say to wrap the video up?
On this scooter, you gotta hate it and love it. You've got to hate that it's huge and has to be so long, to be what it is. You've got to hate that this is so tall that really doesn't fit in anyone's car trunk. It has to fit in a hatchback.
What's so tall?
From the tire to the top of this folding part. And this isn't held in. So if you're picking this up into a car, you've got to just be really strong or have two people. Even with two people, it's hard. But you're gonna love it because the tires, the ride, the quality, the controls are great. Yeah,
and myself, I'm just not really folding scooters anymore. I'm glad that it folds down to some degree, but it's at the point now where I'm just gonna get something on the back of the car where I just, like a motorcycle ramp that just holds it back there. Not a ramp, but a motorcycle, something that goes on the back of the car that would hold a motorcycle, and then strap the scooters on it with the steering up. It's not even gonna be folded, because I don't want to pick these scooters up, That's why I don't mind the extra weight if they want to put a bigger battery in there, and I'd like to see the battery releasable someday. I just think that's good to have that. But at least a bigger battery, a much bigger battery. And
look at this. They could have the controller in here.
Yes.
And then have the battery elongated up front.
Okay.
That would be a simple feature kind of.
Or they could do what they did with the Wolf King GT, which is they have the controller up in here somewhere in the front. And then
they have it between the holes.
Yeah, and then down here is all batteries. Look how much space there is here, from here to here. I mean, look at all this space. You could have like a 60 amp hour battery in there easily, and that would give such great range. And weight is not I don't see weight as a factor anymore because it's already so heavy that we're not going to lift it anyway. So making it a little bit more heavy to get a lot more range it's not, I don't see that as an obstacle. And the length I like because of what Cameron was saying about stability. It's so stable to ride that if the length contributes to that, then keep it. I like the length. Someone was telling me on the internet, stay away from the Segway GT1 and GT2. I said, no, that's my next scooter. I'm getting one. I said, I have the GT1. Cameron has it now. I'm getting the GT2. And I absolutely love that scooter. But the person that was saying that, I happen to already know that they had steps where they lived. They had stairs. So I think that's why for them, maybe it's too heavy for them to lift. I don't know if they can come up with some kind of way where they can put something between the steps that would allow them to just roll this up the steps. Like a little spacer that takes up that space where the step goes in. And just put a bunch of spacers in there and roll the scooter up the steps like that. I don't know if that could be done, but that's just a thought. But anyway, these are great scooters, and I highly recommend the Segway GT1 and GT2 for both beginners and advanced riders because they're really, really great. Because they're very stable, and it's by a big company, and they did a great job with it. Look at these tires. Look how good the quality of these tires are. And my favorite thing about it is the self-sealing, self-healing ability. There's so much terminology talking about you can't get flats with these tires, this and that. My question is, does it have liquid in it? I don't want liquid in my tires because if it leaks out, it gets in the floor, it gets everywhere. I don't want liquid in there, okay? I've already been through that. I don't want that. I like this stuff because it's thick. It's like a thick, I'm calling it like an adhesive that doesn't dry. It's like a thick, mushy, like almost like gum that's not dried yet. And when you stick a nail in there and pull it out, it just, that material just seals right away. Nothing leaks out. Now, if it's a really, really big hole, like something pops a big hole in there, sometimes you can plug it. And what I did with a really, really big hole is I tied a knot in the tire plug. So the plug is like this material, right? It's like this long, thin material. I tied a knot in it, and I pushed the knot in the hole, and that prevented it from getting shot back out because the hole was so big that it was spitting out the plug. So that's an option too if that happens. I want to make a video on that. How to plug a larger hole on self-sealing, self-healing tires, or any tire really. All right, everyone. So we're gonna wrap this up, and we'll see you next time.
See you, people.